Podcast Business text line as well. We got lines here, but I know you want to say something before we get to shed ahead.
Well, I just want to start here. Like, I love the NFL because there's many different ways that you can look at it. And I love the team building aspect of it. I love how they allocate funds and how you build a team. To me, that's like super cool. When I watch the Houston Texans, very few organizations have nailed the quarterback with nothing around them in year one the way they have. Now, we'll see if it's sustainable. Like, who knows? C.J. Stroud had an unbelievable year this year. But part of what made it so remarkable is that a year ago, we looked at Houston and said they have nothing.
Nothing.
And a year later, they have tremendous hope, right? Out of nowhere, all right? Trevor Lawrence. We heard about Trevor Lawrence for 5 years before he even stepped on to an NFL field. And I still don't even know if he's any good. And they have to make a decision about Trevor Lawrence here soon, all right, about how much money to give him. And Trevor Lawrence has been spotty at best. And I don't know what Jacksonville should do. And I look at the league right now, and you got Joe Burrow making $55 million next year. They've got tough decisions.
T. Higgins.
What do you do with T. Higgins? I look at Justin Herbert. Harbaugh's taking over the Chargers. He's the second highest paid quarterback for next year in terms of his average, $53 million. All right? Most people would say, yeah, I'd probably pay Herbert $53. I'm sure there are people out there that would question it. Lamar Jackson, he had to fight tooth and nail to get the $186 million guaranteed. He's making $53 million next year. But let's all, like, the guy had an MVP year.
He did.
He is Baltimore, right? Jalen Hurts had one good year. Now, these are the top 4 quarterbacks paid. One good year, essentially. And I thought he had a solid year this year, but not as good as the year before. He's making $51 million.
And what are they saying in Philadelphia about Jalen Hurts?
Did we pay him too soon?
Exactly.
And
they don't believe he's really that guy. They, you know, if he has a subpar year, if he replicates the season he just had, they will move off Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
Or try to.
I totally agree. It makes it harder to field the team around him. Now, the next 3 guys, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, are all making $46, $47 million. And almost everyone would be like, yeah, that's too much for those guys.
Yep.
Would you agree? Okay. Part of what makes the Brock Purdy thing so incredible is that the Niners moved off Jimmy Garoppolo not just because he wasn't good enough, because they needed to reset their financials so they could afford premium players everywhere. And that's why they made the move for Trey Lance. Now, it didn't work out. And in fact, they got more cap relief by nailing Brock Purdy.
Exactly.
Trey would have cost them $10 million or $8 million. Brock costs $800,000. He's the 75th highest paid player at that position. Mitchell Trubisky just got cut. He was making $8 million to be a backup. Swallow that in, Niner fans. Mitchell Trubisky was making $8 million to be a backup. It's one of the greatest values in sports. It afforded them to pay Trent Williams, to bring in CMC, to pay Nick Bosa, to pay Fred Warner, to pay all the guys you love, Kittle and Ayuk and Debo. It becomes exponentially more difficult 1 year from now when they do have to pay Brock Purdy. I'm not tripping right now. I'm rolling with Brock.
But that's a topic of conversation going into next season.
Absolutely.
What do you do with Brock?
Absolutely.
Do you want to pay Brock?
Absolutely.
Do you want to pay Brock premium dollars?
And so put it this way. Let's just say $40 million. And who knows, the salary cap's going to go up just a little. Do you want to give 1/4, 1/5 of your salary cap to Brock Purdy and sacrifice Debo and Kittle?
Well,
CMC, Ayuk, and alignment?
Here's what I'll ask you.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I understand.
That's what it costs
That's
you.
what it costs, no
and
doubt.
that's what these other teams, these are the decisions they have to make.
Now, you can get lucky and maybe draft some guys, and they turn it to Debo Samuels and Brendan Ayuk. And they did that with Rasheed Rice. Rasheed Rice is going to be a good player. Rookie year had over 70 catches.
He's not as good as Tyreek.
He's not as good as Tyreek. Not yet.
No.
He may one day, but he's not as good as Tyreek.
But they rolled the dice.
But they rolled the dice knowing they had a number 1 tight end in Travis Kelce that they use. The problem with the 49ers offense is we don't know who our number 1 is in the passing game because Shanahan's got the timing. It's like, hey, this is the throw I want you to make. Remember the throw he made, Brock Purdy to Brendan Ayuk on Thanksgiving night? And Shanahan went crazy, said that wasn't the read there. But Brock Purdy said, to hell with this. It was a dime. It was a touchdown. And it ended the football game. It basically clinched the NFC West for the 49ers. Got them closer and closer to doing that. Kansas City knows who their number 1 is. Philadelphia knows who their number 1 is. You know, Baltimore, for the most part, they know Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews are 1A and 1B. We don't know who the number 1 is, and that's part of the problem. But also, when you look at the Super Bowl, did Brock Purdy look like a $40 million quarterback? Honestly?
In that game, no. But and to be fair, to be graceful, you could do that. Like Lamar Jackson didn't look like a $40 million quarterback the week prior or 2 weeks prior in the AFC Championship game.
He did.
But I would say this: Lamar's second half, the week before that against the Texans,
was dynamic.
He's dominant, right?
So when I look at Brock Purdy, and I say,
we could play that game.
If I pay him $40 million and I don't have these playmakers. Now, I argued for years that Jimmy didn't have a lot of playmakers.
He didn't.
He had George Kittle. He walked on the field against Arizona after the Super Bowl season with Dante Pettis, Kendrick Bourne, Trent Taylor to starting wide receivers. And I say, well, look, I know Jimmy's not the greatest quarterback in the world, but damn, he's throwing to these guys.
I know.
Like, what do you expect from him? What do you expect from Jimmy? And nobody was listening to me. Nobody cared to say Jimmy this and Jimmy that because of the money that he was getting paid.
$26 million.
The money he was getting paid baked into the equation that, well, 100%. I don't care. He should elevate his players.
Exactly.
We watched Brock Purdy for 3 games. Cleveland, Minnesota, Cincinnati. He did not elevate his teammates. Now, he's a second-year quarterback when Debo was out.
And Trent.
They scored 17, 17, 17. So maybe he's not there yet. He's not that guy yet.
He's in year 2.
Maybe he grows into that.
Yes.
But how much growth does he have as a quarterback? After watching what we saw this year, what is Brock Purdy's ceiling? That's something nobody's ever talked about.
Well,
what is his ceiling? Is it Joe Burrow? Is it Josh Allen? Is it Lamar Jackson? Is it C.J. Stroud? Like, if I ask Niner fans right now, who'd you rather have, C.J. Stroud or Brock Purdy?
Well, I think because of the pedigree of being drafted number 2 overall, people instantly are going to go to C.J. Stroud. But I would go to this. I would say this.
There's people to tell me they wouldn't take Josh Allen over Brock Purdy.
Well, that feels pretty dumb.
Well, people were telling me that. They were telling me that. I threw that out there late in the season. Well, Josh Allen turns the ball over. What has he ever done?
Come on, Josh Allen's amazing. If Niner fans, just do this exercise. If Buffalo got a call from John Lynch that said, we will trade you Brock Purdy for Josh Allen, given what the final, they'd hang up the phone. I mean, come on. You got to take a step back and be real. Now, those things, they're unrealistic and they don't happen. You asking me like what the ceiling is. And I think he's better than this player. I do. I think he's better than this player. I think Brock is better than this player. I want to make it clear. When I look at how the rhetoric is around Dak Prescott, the reason Dak Prescott takes the heat that he does is because he's making $40 million a year. When Dak was making nothing and he was a 4th-round pick and they could afford the Avengers around him, everyone was like, Dak's awesome. And he was. He was great. And I think Purdy was better in his 1 year this year than Dak ever was at the beginning of that contract. But once you start making the money, that's when the criticism comes. And I know Niner fans are in la-la land when it comes to Brock, and they don't want to be realistic and take a step back and start thinking about these things. But this is how businesses are run. They're thinking a year out, 2 years out, 3 years out. Part of why they drafted Trey Lance was they were looking 2 years down the line at paying Bosa, at paying Ayuk, about extending Trent Williams. That's why they made the financial move to reset their books. So I do think this year we're going to be thinking long and hard about all this.
Well, Thomas Call right here on YouTube. Spent $10. Thank you, Thomas, for that donation on YouTube. Your guy Thomas from Central Iowa here. You are absolutely right. Next year is the show-me year for Brock Purdy. High stakes. To be the best, you have to beat the best. High stakes. In this playoff run, it was uneven. He didn't play consistent football these playoffs. He really didn't. Yeah. So that's what it is. Let's get back to Steve Wilkes and the firing yesterday.
Harbaugh, I just want to do this exercise real quick. Would Harbaugh trade Brock Purdy for Justin Herbert right now?
Absolutely. No, he would not. He would not trade Justin Herbert.
Right, so do those exercises. When you're talking about, guys, do those exercises in your head.
He wouldn't.
All right? Niner fans? Again, and no one is saying that he's not good. He is good.
Since I'm the racist one on the show.
But what makes him great is the value.
Hold on. Since I'm quote-unquote the racist one on the show, let me be clear here. We think Brock Purdy had an exceptional season.
It's amazing.
He deserved an MVP consideration. Brock Purdy did what I like Brock Purdy a lot. I think if he won the Super Bowl, it would be one of the greatest stories we've ever seen in North American sports history. He did. He did some things that I was like, wow, I'm glad to have him as my quarterback. Humble young man, last pick of the draft, great family. I had no issues with Brock Purdy whatsoever. But we can't be one-sided in terms of, and pick and choose when we have this conversation about the quarterback. He's the quarterback of the 49ers. And we understand, growing up as Niner fans, what's baked into the equation of being the 49ers quarterback. We know the standard, we know where the bar is at, and we know what comes with that. Criticism and praise. When you lose, you get criticized.
Yes.
You get critiqued. We're not saying Brock Purdy's trash. Those are not coming out of our mouths.
No.
But you are going to have to make a decision a year from now. And is Brock Purdy, I have a hard time paying Brock Purdy $40 million a year. That's just me right now. That's me right now. After watching that Super Bowl and watching these playoff games, I'm saying, boy,
And that's where I would say to you.
Where's the ceiling at?
Well, that's what I would say to you. Let's see what he looks like in that second full season at 24 years old.
Right.
Let's see what he looks like in his second full or third full playoff
Book's
run.
coming out on him.
No, but maybe there's growth, right? I'm open for that interpretation.
Here's what I've seen with Brock Purdy. The matchup's over with Baltimore where he almost threw 7 picks. He threw 4 picks. Let's be real. He almost threw 7 picks. It was a lot of Jimmy Odell throws. It is what it is on Christmas night. Maybe it's a one-off. But when I watched Cleveland run that sticky man defense and dare Brock Purdy to throw the ball deep, and he couldn't do it. We watched Kansas City on Sunday. They dared Brock Purdy to beat him deep. 10 in the box. We saw the safeties playing 8 yards off the line of scrimmage. It felt like the 2021 NFC Championship game against the Rams. Throw it deep.
It did.
How was Brock Purdy's downfield accuracy the last two games of the season?
It wasn't as good as what it was all year.
It was porous.
Yeah.
And in these football games, you have to hit some deep shots. You just have to. These playoff games, you got to be able to stretch the defense at some point.
How many
he was not able to do that.
And it's impossible to compare anyone to Mahomes. So let's just I watched the AFC Championship game over, the one that Burrow lost. Burrow hit 3 receivers on the final drive, 40 yards down the field in the numbers.
Yep.
And we're calling Burrow a loser. Josh Allen hit Stephon Diggs 65 yards down the field.
Frozen rope. In the cold.
in between the numbers, and he dropped the ball.
Yep.
And by the way, Josh Allen was a man possessed in that game against that same Kansas City defense with less weapons around him, making significant money. So, those guys got crushed for losing those games.
So
and that's what we do at the position.
That's what we do.
Lamar Jackson had an MVP year. It was moot because he lost and played terrible in the AFC Championship game.
Exactly. Wow. 925 with this text. This is going to tick some people off, and I'm going to read it anyway because I don't care today. Warriors lost. We just lost the Super Bowl. I'm a little grumpy, folks. I'm sorry. This is supposed to be a better day in the Bay Area, and it's not. Instead, we're going to go home, take a nap, get ready for Warriors and Jazz. 925, Comcast Business Text Line. Guys, hate to say it, but Brock Purdy is dumb off the bonus. Great regular season, but can't come through in the playoffs.
I'm not.
Empty calories. Nick in Berkeley, what's happening?
Follow Brock. No.
Nick in Berkeley, what's happening?
Man, check it out, man. Sasky, I love you, but you're tripping. The man is only 23 years old, Sasky. And let me tell you something. Shanahan is a moron, bro. If I was the owner, what would Eddie G do? He would have left him in Vegas, bro, with no plane ride home and tell him to kick rocks and then go catch Highway 101 or whatever you try to do. He don't care where you go. Because we're going to find somebody that coaches to win and doesn't coach to lose. Because guess what? You can't have players running down the field not knowing where the ball is on a punt. You can't have a dude trying to pick up the ball instead of diving on top of it. It's the little things in big games that count. If you're coaching to lose, you're going to lose. One of Shanahan's tenets is he always defers when he wins the toss. Always. And what did he do? He didn't defer. He took the ball. What are you doing, dude? You went against everything that you always do. You disappeared in the second half for the third quarter because you're Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Your Mr. Hyde isn't a monster. Your Mr. Hyde is a punk. You know what I'm saying? Dude, you're be spacing out, drifting away like I don't even know what you're doing. Shanahan's babbling. All this babbling talk about Purdy, this and that. Man, look, man. The Chiefs led the league in holding penalties the last 2 years but got called for 0 in the Super Bowl. What the hell's going on with that? You want to talk about uncomfortable? Why would you bet any money on it? You got to be a sucker to bet any money on the Super Bowl. These refs were BSing us, man. It was a joke. There was one play, Bosa did just flinch. He got drilled in the back. Yeah. At the very least, there's a block in the back or a clipping. And let me tell you this. You don't even play Mason. You talk about disrespecting a player. You don't give him one carry in the Super Bowl. Andy Reid was using all his offensive players. We drafted a tight end. Why didn't you get in there and run at least 1 or 2 plays? Because Shanahan is stuck on Shanahan.
Let's be honest, Nick. Let's be honest. Andy Reid's a better play caller, better play designer than Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan met his match. He's 0-4 against Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs.